What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Not So Stupid podcast. Today's episode is a nice, quick, succinct episode on how to recover from Thanksgiving. And this is really a one-size-fits-all answer to overcoming binge eating, the day after binge eating, overcoming a day where you just overate, right? You had a big celebration and you fell off track. You had way more food than you anticipated. How to get back into the swing of things after that, right? Thanksgiving is just a notorious day where people live and brag about how much they ate, how full they are, and how gluttonous they were for that 24-hour period. But the next day is always notoriously a terrible feeling day. Your body is rejecting you. You feel super lethargic and slow and heavy and just gross, really, right? So how can you come back from that? How can you put yourself in a position again to make up for that lost day, essentially, right? It's probably what you're telling yourself. How can you compensate to make this better? And the solution really is not compensating. The solution is not being mean to yourself, being kind to yourself, right? Allowing yourself that kind of grace. But before all of that, if this is a recurring theme for you, it's important to reflect on how you got to the point that you're at right now. And is this something that you want to keep repeating over and over and over again? Because again, if this is a notorious thing that Thanksgiving is known for, if this is something you want to do every Thanksgiving and it's the only day of the year that you want to do this, I mean, I guess that's fine. That's a personal choice. You could do that. It's not the worst thing in the world. But if this is something that's happening on a weekly basis, if it's happening multiple times a week, if it's happening monthly, right? If it's more frequent than that, frequent to a point where you are and have been stagnant with how your body is shaping, you have been stagnant with your health, you have been stagnant with the amount of energy you have, right? You're just unhappy with going back and forth between this, then something needs to be done. And that's where the reflection comes in. What is causing you to get to this point? And how can you prevent that, right? What emotions, when you're in that situation, are causing you to want to eat more to the point that you can't, breathe, essentially, right? Well, what feelings, what experiences trigger these things? What joy and satisfaction do you find in that moment that keeps you going to want to eat more, as opposed to stopping and being content with that? What is happening there, right? And that's something I can't answer for you. That's something you're gonna have to look inward and understand for yourself. There is a previous podcast episode with Laura Holbrin where we talk about the 6 phases of food that is incredibly insightful. And if you haven't watched it or listened to it yet, definitely recommend doing that because you will find a lot of benefit in it than you would in this episode, specific to recurring themes of binge eating, recurring themes of overindulging, and looking for food as emotional support. But getting back to the main topic of this podcast, we're talking about coming back from a day where you ate way more than you had anticipated, way more than you had planned to, and way more than you had wanted to. How can you come back from that? How can you not let that sabotage your goals for fat loss? And the best way to do that is to do the exact plan that you would have done the next day had everything gone right the previous day. So Thanksgiving is on a Thursday. Let's say you had planned to only have 1 plate of food. Most of it is turkey. You wanted to stay high on the protein. You wanted some string beans and vegetables with that. But you ended up having 3 total plates. You had a plate of just dessert. You had a plate of mashed potatoes because your mom makes the best mashed potatoes, right? And again, these are not bad decisions in and of themselves, but they are something that weren't helpful or conducive to your goal of fat loss at this point in time. And that was something you did want to work on while in Thanksgiving, right? If you have listened to the previous podcast episode, we talked about knowing your priorities going into holidays and maybe sacrificing one for that particular day. But you wanted to do that. You wanted to stay on track, eat healthy, and manage your portions while in Thanksgiving. And that's very noble, but it just didn't work out this time. You weren't 100% ready for that, and that's okay. But how can you come back and make it up to yourself today? You make it up to yourself today by doing the plan that you were going to do on Friday, no matter what. If everything went right on Thanksgiving, you ended up having the plate like you had planned. Whatever you're going to do the next day, track your calories again, and get back to being active. You had a plan. Just do that. Don't do anything fancy. You don't have to compensate. You don't have to punish yourself. You don't have to cry about it. It's not going to help you. It's not going to change the fact that that thing happened, and it's not going to change how you it's not going to, man, I lost my words here. It's not going to change that event happened. That event is done. It's in the past. You can't alter that in any way. You are now working with that as it is. Now, you compensating for that isn't going to help, because that can create a domino effect down the line that makes this worse. It's going to create a negative relationship with food. It's going to create a transactional relationship with having certain foods where you can't enjoy them for what they are, because the next day you have to work extra hard or fast in the morning because you want to balance it out, or whatever seemingly logical thing is that is actually a harmful behavior that you want to justify. So instead of going through that path, forgive yourself for having gone through that. Understand what stopped you from following through with the plan in the first place that you had intended to follow through with, and get back on track. Do the thing that you were going to do today anyway, and continue to do that thing for the rest of the day, and repeat it over and over again as the day goes on. You don't need to change anything, because you can never actually ever mess up this journey. You can never mess it up. You're not on some time crunch, no matter how much you want to believe you are. You're not in a rush. You don't need to be in a rush. You're not in a hurry. Things are going at the pace they need to be going at. And the sooner you learn that this is an ever-going process, the sooner you can reach your goals. But the more you rush and try to compensate and try to push yourself into these uncomfortable circumstances to make up for these quote-unquote negative behaviors that you experienced, the longer this entire thing is going to take for you. So be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself for what you did. Reflect and learn on what led you to that point, and get back on track to the exact plan as it was intended before things went wrong, right? In your mind, as I would like to say, as things went wrong. That is how you recover. That is how you grow and get to your goal. Not by overcompensating, not by doing more cardio the next day, not by fasting and cutting your calories by half a day or by half the intake that you're supposed to be having. No, you do whatever you were supposed to do, and you repeat that as long as you need to repeat that. The sooner, again, that you can recognize that this is an ever-going process, the sooner you will reach your goals. So I hope you found this helpful. If you know a friend that is feeling guilty about their Thanksgiving Day on this beautiful Friday, make sure to send them this podcast so that they can have a positive message. And we will see you guys on the next episode.